Deep in the suffocating heat of the Central American rainforest, you'll find these colossal stone pyramids just piercing the green canopy. Their plazas, once bustling, are now choked by the roots of ancient trees. For centuries, this was a completely forgotten world. This was the world of the classic Maya, a civilization that, at its absolute peak, was arguably the most advanced on the entire planet. And then, right in the heart of their golden age, they just unraveled. So let's dive in and investigate one of history's greatest mysteries.
That's really the central question here, isn't it? These people were absolute masters of time, of mathematics, of astronomy, and yet they just abandoned their magnificent cities, leaving them to be literally swallowed by the jungle. See, it wasn't some foreign invasion or a single cataclysmic event. No, it was something much, much more complex. For hundreds of years, these great stone cities just slept, completely shrouded in green. When explorers finally rediscovered them, the world was just stunned. Who were these people, and how could they possibly have achieved so much, so deep in this unforgiving rainforest?
Okay, the sheer intellectual achievement here is just staggering. Think about this. They were the only people in the ancient Americas to create a complete, functional writing system. They independently invented the concept of zero, a monumental leap in mathematics that so many other great civilizations missed. And their understanding of celestial cycles, it was so precise they could track the stars and predict eclipses with an accuracy that Europe wouldn't match for another 1,000 years. This was a civilization at the absolute pinnacle of human achievement.
So you have to wonder, how did this incredible world of geniuses actually hold itself together? Well, it was all built on a sacred and terrifyingly fragile social contract, a kind of cosmic bargain that connected the people, their king, and the gods.
Right at the heart of it all was this figure, the Kuholajao, the Holy Lord. Now, this wasn't a king like we think of one today. He was a divine shaman. His main job wasn't really politics. It was to perform the sacred rituals needed to maintain the very order of the cosmos.
And here is that bargain, laid out plain and simple. It was basically a three-step promise. Step 1, the people provide tribute, mostly corn, to the king. Step 2, the king then performs these incredibly painful bloodletting rituals, piercing his own body to offer his sacred blood to the gods. And in return, Step 3, the gods were expected to provide the rain needed for the harvest. Simple, powerful, and, as it turns out, incredibly dangerous.
And for 6 whole centuries, this system actually worked. It allowed cities like Tikal to just swell into these bustling metropolises, supporting tens of thousands of people. But that very success, that massive population, began to put an unimaginable pressure on the world all around them.
So how did it all go so wrong? Well, the collapse wasn't caused by just one single thing. Archaeologists, acting like modern detectives, have uncovered clues that all point to a perfect storm, a whole series of interconnected disasters that just fed on each other. And the first clue? It points to a self-inflicted wound. The Mayas' own incredible ambition and success actually led them to wage a losing war against their own environment, creating the very conditions for their downfall. Let this number sink in for a second. To create that brilliant white lime plaster that covered their beautiful temples, they had to burn immense quantities of green wood. So, as rival kings got into this architectural arms race, they essentially stripped the rainforest bare. All of this massive deforestation led to catastrophic soil erosion, which washed away the fertile topsoil and destroyed the very farmland they needed to survive. The second clue reveals a society that was literally turning on itself. As all those resources became scarcer, the very nature of Maya warfare began to change, shifting from a limited, ritual practice to a desperate, all-out struggle for survival.
And the shift was dramatic. Early warfare was almost like a ritual. It was about capturing high-status enemies for sacrifice. But in that final century, the art on palace walls gets so much grimmer. It depicts chaotic battles and scenes of brutal torture. Cities that were once open and confident suddenly start building these hasty defensive walls. War was no longer a ritual, it was total.
Okay, so you've got the land stripped bare, and society is tearing itself apart at war. And then came the final decisive blow. A crisis they couldn't possibly fight, one that was delivered by the sky itself. Modern science, from analyzing things like lake beds and cave formations, has proven it. Around 750 AD, a catastrophic century-long drought began. The result was absolutely devastating. As the rains failed one by one, the great southern cities just stopped. They stopped carving their history into stone, and they fell silent.
So what happens when your environment is destroyed, your world is at war, and the rains just stop falling? Well, the entire social contract dissolves. That sacred promise between the king and the people, it was broken. And this right here is the death spiral. Each crisis just amplified the others. Famine led to more war, which of course led to worse famine. The kings performed ever more frantic, desperate bloodletting rituals, but the gods remained silent. The people's faith didn't just crumble, it completely evaporated.
So what was the ultimate response from the people? Faced with starvation, endless war, and failed gods, they made the only logical choice they had left. As one historian put it so perfectly, they voted with their feet. They abandoned the cities, abandoned the holy lords who had failed them, and simply walked away. But here's the thing, this isn't just a story of collapse. It's so important to understand that the Maya people did not just vanish. Their story then becomes one of incredible resilience, of adaptation, and of survival against all possible odds.
See, that old system of divine kings and massive cities, it was just unsustainable. The survivors adapted. They migrated north to cities like Chichén Itzá and built a new society based on more resilient strategies, like maritime trade. They created a final, brilliant flowering of their culture.
And this right here is maybe the most important fact of all. The Maya are still here. Over 7 million of their descendants live today in their ancestral lands, speaking their languages and carrying on their traditions. The collapse was the end of a political system, not the end of a people.
So those silent cities in the jungle, they're more than just a historical mystery. They're a mirror. They force us to consider the incredibly delicate balance between our own ambition and our environment. The Maya story is a timeless warning, and it leaves us with one final, powerful question. Are we listening?